This is a tutorial on how to get from Autodesk Inventor 2013 to the makerware software for MakerBots to be able to 3D print your project. So this is just the wheel that we've created in the first set of tutorials. So what I want to do is get into that makerware software. So before I do that, there's a couple things I want to show you. So on the tabs tool up here, okay, typically you're in the 3D model one. We're going to go to Tools, and we're going to go to Document Settings. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the units, okay? And you can see it's in inches right now. So if I just go to Distance, and I go across the top distance here, you can see it's 1.5 inches, okay? So if I go to Document Settings, Units, change that inches to millimeters, right? And what I'm doing is applying all the changes to this entire file now. And when I measure now, you'll get 38.1 millimeters, which is equivalent to 1.5 inches. The reason we're doing this is the makerware software likes millimeters versus inches. It still works, but it's just easier to transfer it over, okay? Next, what we're going to do is come up here, and on the drop down, we're going to go to Export. Okay, and Export, we're going to do CAD format, and this is very important. Okay, so you got to be CAD format, and then here's a screen's going to come up. I'm going to go to Preview right now, and what you're going to see is this is what it's going to export as. Okay, if I go to, and you can see these facets, there's 18,744 edges to this. Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to play a little bit with this. If I go to Low right now, you can see there's a few more edges there now, so it's not as smooth of an object, but the facets have come way down. And if I go back to here and I go take this guy and I go to 100%, okay, you can see there's a lot more edges to it. Okay, so depending on what you're doing, you might play with these numbers a bit, right? So I'm just going to go back to Options. I'm just going to go to High and leave it at High because we want a smooth surface. And then the last one before I get out of this is, see the units here? It's centimeters. So it's going to convert from millimeters in the project that you've done to centimeters when it exports out, which is going to mess you up when you get into the makerware software. So I'm going to make sure this one's millimeters. You can see I can have it in inches too, but I'm going to use millimeters. So everything's millimeters all the way across, okay? Nice and smooth now. I'm going to close out of this preview screen, and I've got my Sumo wheel name. I got my stereolithography file. That's the file format we have to use, right? So make sure it's stereolithography, otherwise it doesn't work, STL. I'm going to click Save. And away it goes, it's done. Okay, now I'm going to get into my makerware software. So Start button, all programs, and I'm just going to scroll down to MakerBot, and the MakerBot, you might have to put this on your desktop after, okay, and it will start up. So first time it starts up might look something like this, okay. The screen you want is right here, it's called Prepare, so you click on Prepare. It opens up like this. This is the build platform for your 3D printer now. In this, though, I got to make sure I have the right device. So I'm going to come into here, I'm going to select type of device. I want Replicator 2. We have Replicator 2s in here, not any of these other ones. You have to make sure it's this. So there's the first thing we're going to do. Second thing is under Settings. Okay, this is very important. Number one, what are we going to do here? Well, quality-wise, we can go high, medium, low. I'm going to go to high just to see what it does. You can see how certain numbers change. Okay, I'm just going to make a custom one up, okay? So quality is basically how thick or how structurally sound the object is. And depending on what you're doing, you have to or don't have to actually make an object structurally sound, okay, or very dense, okay? So in the wheels, you really don't need to have it that dense. So what we're going to do is, first off, change some numbers. The raft. What raft is it builds a support on the table first and then builds your object on top of it. We don't need that. Okay. Support. What happens if you're drawing something that goes up for a while and then it's got to go straight out sideways? You need to support it because you can't print in thin air. Okay. But there's nothing in your wheels for this, so we don't need to support on. Okay. Layer height. This here is how every time the 3D printer goes across, how much it moves. So I'm going to leave this at 0.2 for this project. Infill, we're going to increase this to about 25%. It basically creates like a honeycomb effect inside your wheel, and the higher the infill, the longer it's going to take. And so you got to play with that a bit depending on what the project is. And finally, the number of shells is how many times it goes around the outside before it starts to do the infill. So we're going to increase that to 3. Okay. And then finally over here, material, it is a MakerBot, it's PLA, so it kind of can't do anything else but that. Okay, so we're going to use MakerBot PLA. The extruder temperature, we're going to change this to 220 degrees because 230 is a bit hot for the PLA. And those are the settings. So that's all set. You shouldn't have to change that ever again. Okay, finally, File, Open. In your directory, you'll go find it on the network. Mine, I just have it defaulted here. Okay, and I'm going to take my wheel and bring it in. You can see it's coming in. I'm going to say move to platform. Okay, and it makes it level. I can just take my mouse right now because this is the look tool. Okay, or change view. Right, I can look from the top. I can scroll around, move it right, scroll in, scroll out. You get the point. Okay, so there's the first one. I'm just going to move it up kind of like this. I can move it around, okay, and you can see you can move it by distances, set ones, or I can just grab it and drag it and move it around. So I'm just going to move it off to the side like this for a bit. Okay, you can rotate. So if it comes in the wrong way because you didn't do the top surface versus front, back, left, right, or top, right, side views, you can move it around. Okay, you can see I can get screwed all up, and I can just go back to reset rotation. And here's this lay flat. Make sure it's on flat surface. So I want the surface that is completely in contact with the bed to be down, right? So that it can't print in space on this project. So the wheels, the axle hole in this case is going to be down, okay? And finally, scale. We don't need to change any scaling because we converted it beforehand, and there's your 38.1 millimeters. Okay, so that's done. Okay, so there's the first one. Now I want two wheels right away. So I can Control C, Control V. I can go to Edit for copy paste. So I'm just going to go Control and C to copy it. Whoops, I have to select it first. Control C to copy it, Control V to paste it, and I get another one. And I'm just going to move that one. Okay, oops, I don't need that screen. I'm going to move this one over here. And I'm going to look from the top view. And I'm going to click here, go top, and hide that. And I'm going to zoom in a bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these so they're quite close together. They're not quite touching, but they're close together. Because if you think about it, what's going to happen is the makerware and the little head is going to 3D print these. So if one's over in this corner and one's in this corner, it's going to take a lot longer to have to go back and forth and stuff. So leave things close together, just not touching. The other one is tend to leave them in the center. Okay, it kind of works best when it's in the center. So there's my files there. Okay, whoops, I'm still in move. So let's just do that. Let's go back to look. Okay, and now I'm ready to actually export them. So my settings are set. My things are there. They're on the laying flat on the bed. So I go to export print file. Okay, and it's going to take a couple, seconds, maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds, depending on how many sides you have, how big of a project it is. This could take 2-3 minutes, right? All depends. But I'm looking at right now my resolution, my rafts, my supports, they're all off. That's what I want, right? And what'll happen is, then when I'm done, it's actually going to show you, and you'll see in a second, what all the build statistics are going to be with it. Okay? So it's actually going to tell you how long it thinks it's going to take, right? And how long it's going to actually, or how much material it's going to use. There we go. So here you can see, it's ready to export. Print time about 2 hours. So those two wheels are going to take 2 hours. How much filament? About 30 grams of filament. Well, that's at 5 cents a gram. That's $1.50's worth of material, right? And then the rest of the stuff, and we can just go export now. Okay. And if you go back to my computer, you'll see down here, computer, I got a removable device storage here. So I have a 2 gig SD card. They cannot be more than 2 gig. If it is, that doesn't work. So I'm just going to go to here. You can see that I've already kind of saved one once. The concept I want you to use, or the naming convention I want you to use, is going to be your first name and then hyphen and then what it is. So that way that I know it's your project and away you go. Okay, so if I have to print this later in the day or at night or something, I can find your file and you simply hit save. Okay. And it'll always, obviously in my case, and I can hit replace it, and it's going to go, and you can see in the top right corner here, it's now saying print to file. Okay, so it needs to go through this and actually print this to the file, and this could take a little bit. So I'm going to stop at this, okay, and you can see how slow it's kind of going. A bigger project, it could take 5 minutes or so. Okay, so I'll stop here. Once it's done, it's just exported to the SD card, and then the next tutorial obviously would be how to go and use a 3D printer. And that's the end of the tutorial.